Hello learners, welcome back to my channel Shraddha's Physics. In this lecture, we will see Weiss theory of ferromagnetism. So before going to the topic Weiss theory, so let us first discuss about what are the ferromagnetic substances more briefly. The substances which when placed in a magnetic field are strongly magnetized in the direction of the applied field. It is the important in the direction of the applied field, they are called the ferromagnetic substances. That is, suppose any ferromagnetic substance like iron, nickel or cobalt, if suppose a iron material, it is placed in a uniform magnetic field, this is the uniform magnetic field, then this iron material will get magnetized in the direction of the field. Since the strongly induced magnetic field, it is in the direction of the applied field, it means that we will discuss about the domain theory of the ferromagnetic substance. So here let us see just since the strong induced magnetic field, it is in the direction of the applied field, the resultant magnetic field inside that ferromagnetic metal is very large. This induced magnetic field means this is suppose an iron material, it is placed in a magnetic field. Then inside this ferromagnetic material, because of the dipole moment, there will be a magnetic field developed. So that will try to oppose this magnetic field. But since this strong induced magnetic field is developed, that is inside this ferromagnetic material, a induced magnetic field that will be developed, it is in the direction of the field. So this induced field that will try to oppose this magnetic field, it will be also in the direction of the field. So the resultant magnetic field inside that ferromagnetic material is very large. It means that if you remove this magnetic field, that is if you remove the external magnetic field, then after that also it has some retention power of the ferromagnetic matter, that some of the magnetic field or the some of the magnetic property, we can say it will be retained in that ferromagnetic matter. So we can say that we can make permanent magnet from this ferromagnetic material. Okay. So the magnetic susceptibility is positive and having very high value. So relative permeability, that is mu r equal to 1 plus chi m, it is very high. Now let us first discuss about the domain theory of the ferromagnetism. So Weiss proposed the concept of the domains in order to explain the properties of the ferromagnetic materials. Now let us see what are the domains. So what is the causes of the ferromagnetism? So in a ferromagnetic substance, the atoms instead of acting independently, they appear to be in group magnetically into what are called the domains. Okay, it means that suppose let us consider, let me draw here. Suppose this is a ferromagnetic material. So in this case, suppose in a particular region, I have already told you, in some particular region, if these are some regions. So in this is your first region. In this first region, suppose the dipoles are aligned in this particular direction, then they will form one domain. If in this domain the dipole moment of the dipoles, they are in this particular direction, then they will form a one region that is called the magnetic domain or the ferromagnetic materials domain, and like so on. Okay. So here you can see that in a ferromagnetic substance, the atom instead of acting independently, they appear to be grouped magnetically into what are called the domains. This occurs because the magnetic dipole moment of such a substance, it exerts strong forces on their neighbors, so that over a small region of space, the magnetic moments of all the atoms point in the same direction, even with the no external magnetic field. So in this particular domain, you can see there will be no external magnetic field, but in the particular region they will be aligned in a the total dipole, the all the atoms, or we can say that all the molecules present in that particular domain, they will be aligned in a particular direction, so that they will form a magnetic domain. Now let us see. A typical domain, it contains 10 power 17 to 10 power 21 atoms and occupies the volume of 10 power minus 12 to 10 power minus 8 meter cube. So suppose in this diagram, you can see in this figure, you can see there are 4 domains. These are 4 domains. Okay. So in this particular domain, suppose the dipole alignment, so the magnetic dipole are in this direction. Okay. Now in the second domain, all the atoms having the dipole moment in this direction, and in this domain suppose in this direction, and the last one is in this direction, suppose. So we can say that they are randomly oriented, that is the directions are different. So this happens when there will be no external magnetic field is applied to it. Now we can say that within the domain all the magnetic moments are aligned, but the direction of the alignment it varies from domain to domain. So the result is that there is no net magnetic moment. So a ferromagnetic material doesn't exhibit magnetism in the normal state. So you can see that here in this particular domain, in this particular region, you can see all the dipole alignments are in a certain direction, or if we can say that each individual atoms are aligned in a same direction, and also this is same for each individual domain. In each individual domain the alignment are same, but if you will consider this whole atom, or the whole material, so in this case, in this total material, you can see the random orientation of the dipoles. But when a ferromagnetic substance it is placed in an external magnetic field, a net magnetic moment develops. This can occur in two ways. First, the domain that already happened to be aligned with the applied field, it may grow in size at the expense of the neighboring domain. That is in this diagram. Let us see. In the second diagram, in this figure, you can see. Suppose the external magnetic field is in this direction. Now, in the first diagram, you can see in the four domains, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me change the color so that you can guess. This is suppose one domain, this one is second, this one is third, and this one is the fourth domain. So in the first domain the alignment are in this direction, okay, but we have applied the external magnetic field in the upward direction. Now from this fourth domain you can guess that, you can see here, this is only in this particular domain, that is in the fourth domain the alignment are in the same direction to that of the external field, so that this domain now by getting this external magnetic field it will get more stronger, so that this domain now will get larger in size. Now you can see here this domain size increases, the domain size now increases, or we can say that the other domains their size decreases, the domain size decreases, and the external field direction, since it is in the direction of this particular fourth domain, so that by getting this strong magnetic field it will now get the dipole moments, or the alignment of the dipole, it is in this upward direction, so the size of this domain will get increases. This is the one way, and the other way is secondly, the domains may rotate so that their magnetic moments are more or less aligned in the direction of the applied field. Now we can see that here, in this case here also the external magnetic field is in the upward direction. Since the fourth domain is already in the upward direction, it will remain as it is. But the other, that is suppose for the first case the alignment is in this direction, now it will try to rotate that, this alignment will, or we can say that the dipole will get oriented in the direction of the field. So now all the atoms present in that particular domain, it will orient, or it will rotate in the direction of the external field, and this is also same for the second and third domain, that is the rotation of the dipole occur. The result is that there is net magnetic moment in the direction of the applied field. Since the degrees of alignment is very large even for a small external field, the magnetic field produced in the ferromagnetic material is often much greater than that of the external field. That is, this is the net magnetic field, means the external field we apply, as well as because of the orientation we can say, or because of the increase in the size of the domain, whether these are the two possible cases, so that the ferromagnetic material it will be greater, the magnetic field produced in the ferromagnetic material it will be greater than that of the external field. Okay, so randomly we can say because of this random motion of the atom, they tend to destroy the alignment of the domains. So the ferromagnetic effect weaken with the increasing the temperature. That is, if you increase the temperature of a ferromagnetic material, then because of this thermal motion, that is the random thermal motion, it will try to destroy the alignment of the domain. So above the certain temperature, that is the Curie temperature, the ferromagnetic ceases altogether and the substance behaves as a paramagnetic material. That is, if you increase the temperature, you can see, if you increase the temperature, now they will again get randomly oriented, or they may destroy the domains, so that at above the Curie temperature, that is above a certain temperature that is known as the Curie temperature, at this temperature the ferromagnetic material, it will behave like a paramagnetic material. This is the most important thing. The ferromagnetic material will behave as a paramagnetic material in the Curie's temperature. Okay, at Curie's temperature the ferromagnetic material will behave like a paramagnetic material. Now let us see the domain theory of ferromagnetism. So Weiss proposed the concept of the domains in order to explain the properties of the ferromagnetic material. You already know what are the domains. The group of atomic dipoles, atoms with a permanent magnetic moment, it organized into tiny bound regions in the ferromagnetic material that are called the magnetic domains. Okay. So the ferromagnetic material, it contains a large number of domains. So what are the magnetic domain? In demagnetized state, we can say that in the demagnetized state, a ferromagnetic material, it is divided into a number of small regions that are called the domain, and each domain is spontaneously magnetized. Okay. So the boundaries between the different domains are called the domain wall, and the domain walls are also called the Bloch walls. In each individual domain, the magnetic moments of the atoms are aligned in the same direction. That is, let me tell you what are the domain walls. These are, suppose, let me draw like this. These are, suppose, 4 domains here. So the domain walls means the separation line between the two different domain is called this black one. These are called the domain walls. Okay, and these are also known as the Bloch wall. These are also known as the Bloch wall. Okay. So the domain in a region of the ferromagnetic metal in which all the magnetic moments are aligned to produce a net magnetic moment in one direction only, it behaves like a with its own magnetic moment and axis. It means that the domain is a particular region of the ferromagnetic material in which all the magnetic moments are aligned to produce a net magnetic moment in one particular direction. So it behaves like a magnet with its own magnetic moment and axis. So this is all about your ferromagnetic material and their domains. Now we will see the Weiss theory of the ferromagnetism. The theory of ferromagnetism, it was put forward by the Weiss, is centered about the following 2 hypotheses. So let us see the hypotheses are: a specimen of ferromagnetic material contains a number of small regions called the domains, which are spontaneously magnetized, and the magnitude of the spontaneous magnetization of the specimen as a whole is determined by the vector sum of the magnetic moments of the individual domain. That is, Weiss considered that the hypothesis of the Weiss first is the ferromagnetic material, it contains a number of small regions that is called the domains, and these domains are spontaneously magnetized, and the magnitude of the spontaneous magnetization of the specimen as a whole, it is determined by the vector sum of the magnetic moment of the individual domain. Okay, the spontaneous magnetization can be determined by the vector sum of the magnetic moment of the individual domain. Now the next hypothesis is the spontaneous magnetization of each domain, it is due to the presence of the exchange of the field. That is, suppose BE, this is actually the external field, you can see this is the external field which tends to produce a parallel alignment of the atomic dipole. So the field BE is assumed to be proportional to the magnetization of each domain. So here there are the 2 hypotheses. Second hypothesis says that the spontaneous magnetization of each domain because of the external field, and that external field basically is directly proportional to the magnetization. Since BE is directly proportional to the magnetization, this BE is directly proportional to the magnetization M. So we can write BE will be equal to lambda into M. Lambda is the proportionality constant, M is the magnetization. Lambda is the constant called the Weiss field constant, and is independent of the temperature. So this lambda doesn't depend on the temperature. And B is called the molecular field or the Weiss field, which is strong as compared to the applied field B. Now we can calculate the effective magnetic field on an atom or ion, we can say. So the B effective will be equal to B plus B. What is B? So B is the applied field. B is the applied field and B is the molecular field, or we can say that after magnetization inside the ferromagnetic metal, the total magnetism occurred by the ferromagnetic metal, that is your Be, or this is also known as molecular field, or this is the Weiss field, or this is known as the Weiss field. Okay. So this B effective equal to B plus B. Now in place of Be, if I substitute the value Be equal to lambda m, so now this Be will be equal to, so in place of Be I can substitute lambda m, and here this is mu naught term is present, because it depends on the, if it will depend on the permeability of the medium, then simply we have to multiply a permeability, that is your, let me write again, this is equal to, in place of B simply I am writing, this is your the applied field B, plus in place of Be I will write, this is your mu naught lambda into m, this is your capital M, that is a magnetization. Okay. Now the B effective can be written as, you know, B equal to mu naught into H. So we can write B effective will be equal to mu naught into H effective. And in place of B we can write mu naught into H. And in place of B we can write simply mu naught lambda m. Okay. So now we can cancel this mu naught from both sides. So this H effective will be equal to H plus lambda m. So the magnetization M for the ferromagnetic material, we can write M will be equal to, from this calculation, this is the magnetization equal to this much N mu square into mu naught H effective divided by 3 kT. So from the above expression we have calculated already, mu naught H effective will be equal to this much. So taking this mu naught common, we can write, or this is simply mu naught H plus mu naught lambda m. Okay, so substituting this value, we will get the magnetization will be equal to N mu square divided by 3 kT into mu naught H plus mu naught lambda m. So if you can remember this magnetization term, it is come from this magnetization, let me write M equal to, from the paramagnetic substance we have already calculated, this is equal to N mu square into B divided by 3 kT. Let me show you again. This is in case of the, just a minute, this is in case of the paramagnetic material we have calculated. Yes, you can see here, this magnetization equal to N mu square B divided by 3 kT. So in place of B, simply we have substituted mu naught into H. So here, in this place, we have simply substituted, in place of B, this is mu naught H effective, and the value of mu naught H effective will be equal to this much. Okay. Now chi will be equal to, that is the susceptibility. Here you will write the susceptibility chi will be equal to, chi F means for the ferromagnetic metal, the susceptibility will be equal to M by H. So that is equal to N mu square mu naught H plus mu naught lambda m divided by 3 kT into H. Okay, this is your 3 kT H. Now if you separate these two terms, now this will be N mu square mu naught divided by 3 kT, because H will get cancelled with this H. Okay, so now we can write this first term plus this lambda term here. Again the M by H, you can see this is your M by H into N mu square mu naught divided by 3 kT. Again this M by H is nothing but your susceptibility. If you substitute this value here, then this will be equal to, this is your lambda into susceptibility, and again here we have substituted C, that is the Curie's constant, equal to N mu square mu naught divided by 3K. So here this C divided by T plus lambda susceptibility chi into C divided by T. C is the Curie's constant and its value is N mu square mu naught divided by 3K. Now again if you will simplify it further, then this will be your, this is your susceptibility chi, and here is the minus lambda chi F C by T. So taking susceptibility common, then this will be 1 minus lambda C divided by T whole into chi F, that is equal to C by T. And so we can write that again, just a minute. So we can write here this susceptibility chi will be equal to C by T divided by this 1 minus lambda C divided by T. Okay. Now this T will get cancelled with this T. If this is your C by T divided by 1 minus lambda C divided by T. If you take the LCM, this will be 1 T minus lambda C divided by T. So this T will get cancelled with this T. This will be simply C by T minus C lambda. Okay. So in place of C lambda, we have substituted theta. So this theta equal to C lambda. Theta equal to C into lambda. So this susceptibility, that is chi equal to C by T minus lambda C, or we can write it as C divided by T minus theta. This theta is called the Curie's temperature. It means that when this T will be equal to theta, then the susceptibility goes to infinite. For T less than theta, the relation doesn't signify any meaning. This means that exists a spontaneous magnetization even in the absence of the external magnetic field. That is, when this T becomes theta, you can see here in this expression, then the susceptibility goes to infinite. The material is ferromagnetic below the Curie temperature, and theta becomes we can say that the Curie temperature is your theta. Let me write here. This is your Curie temperature. So below the Curie temperature, it will behave like a ferromagnetic material, that is its original property it will show. And above this Curie temperature theta means your lambda into C. So that is equal. So above this Curie temperature, this ferromagnetic material will behave like a paramagnetic material. Okay. So below this temperature, Curie temperature, it will behave as a ferromagnetic material, and above this Curie temperature, the ferromagnetic substance will behave like a paramagnetic material. So this is here written. You can see the material is ferromagnetic below the Curie temperature. So below the Curie temperature, the material will behave like a ferromagnetic, and it becomes a paramagnetic above the Curie temperature when it will goes above the Curie temperature. So in that case, it will behave like a paramagnetic material. The thermal agitation, it opposes the tendency of Weiss molecular field to align the molecular magnet. But below the Curie temperature, Weiss field energy overpowers the thermal agitation. Consequently, the alignment of most molecular magnet results, giving rise to the magnetization of the material even in the absence of the applied field. That is the phenomenon of the spontaneous magnetization. That is, if you will remove that external field, then it has the power to retain that magnetic field inside the ferromagnetic material. So this is all about your Weiss theory of ferromagnetism. Now let us see what is ferrimagnetism. So this is the type of, this is just a short note, you can mention it in your copy. So what is ferrimagnetism? This is a type of permanent magnetism that occurs in the solid, in which the magnetic fields associated with the individual atoms, it spontaneously align themselves some parallel or in the same direction as in the ferromagnetism, and others generally anti-parallel or paired off in the opposite direction is known as the anti-ferromagnetism. That is, basically we can say that this ferrimagnetism is of two types. One is for your, when the alignment is in the parallel direction, that is this is your ferrimagnetism behavior, and when this is simply anti-parallel, the alignment is anti-parallel, then this will be the anti-ferromagnetism. This is your anti-ferrimagnetism. Okay. And the magnetic behavior of the single crystals of the ferrimagnetic material, it may be attributed to the parallel alignment. The effect of those atoms in the anti-parallel arrangement, it keeps the magnetic strength of this material generally less than that of the purely ferromagnetic solid such as metallic iron. So this is about your ferrimagnetism. So in this class we have studied what are ferromagnetic substance and the domain theory of the ferromagnetic substance. domain theory of the ferromagnetic substance, Weiss theory of ferromagnetism, and finally part of the ferromagnetism. Okay, this is basically the ferromagnetism. This is basically a phenomenon. Okay, so this is the end of the second unit. So in the next class we will start for the third unit of the solid state physics. Thank you all.